Yeah, hi there, Trevor Davis from our Father's House, and we're continuing to have a look at the signs of the times in which we are living, critical times and so on. And as I mentioned before, in case you're just cutting in here, I'm not a theologian and I don't have a great background in some of these issues, but I do have a mind that searches the scriptures and the heart of God, and to try and understand God towards his people and God towards us, and so that we can walk in harmony with him. The scripture talks about him and us being a friend, together walking with him. It talks about him being the Messiah that came and is coming to the world. It talks about him coming a second time, and for us to understand and to ready ourselves and to prepare ourselves for that. That is very, very important. And behind all of this, and even in this session today, I trust that it stirs within our hearts a real desire to touch God, to get ourselves back into that place, to cry unto him for an understanding of his word, revelation of who he is and what he is, and an understanding of his word towards his people and towards the world today. To understand and know that there is a very, very strong force that stands against the things of right. It's the light and the darkness. It's two kingdoms. We referred to that in earlier days. And it's the powers of the kingdom of darkness and witchcraft and all of those different aspects that go on in the world today. And many of those things seem to be what rules the world. Well, how long will God stand back and allow these things to happen? It must be a question on all of our hearts. And we look at the despair, we look at this COVID-19 that's going on around the world, and ask many questions. I mean, why is it? Why can't it be stopped? Why can't it be closed down? Where's the origin, and what is the purpose, and so on? There's no doubt it's been weaponized against the people of the world. It's been weaponized against us and the freedoms that we have in the world. There's an agenda behind all of this, but there also is an agenda in God. He knows at the end of the day, he is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Doesn't matter who and what would like to present themselves as an authority or a ruler over people. God is still the greatest ruler over all. We need to remember that and continue to remember that in our life. And you might want to flick off, just comes to my mind, is Colossians chapter 1. Very good scripture to read, to understand a little bit about the Christ and who he is and what he is. And he's above all things, over principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, over the kingdoms of the world. He is over it all. So our confidence and our trust must be in him. So if you're feeling uncertain in these days, can I encourage you to find your place and your peace in God? Can I encourage you to get yourself into a place of stirring your heart for the things of God again, if maybe you've gone cold for some reason, maybe disappointment or whatever that is in your life. So we're continuing on today in Matthew 24, and we just read the scripture in our last session which said, "For then there will be great tribulation, affliction and distress and oppression, such as never been in the world before." And you can think back to a lot of things, and we did make a reference to the two world wars in the 1900s, and we saw a massive attempt of nation to take over nations, or the destruction of God's people and the killing off of the Jews. We saw all of that. Has that really generated a coming back to God? Well, not necessarily in the hearts of his people, has it? No. But if you go to Ezekiel chapter 37, 38 and 39, you see that they were scattered across the world. But now there's a time when he's going to bring them home. This is that time. The Jews are coming home to Israel. Why? Because that is their land, their place, and it's the place where God has defined for them to be and for him to be in the days that are ahead. So it's important for us to understand that. So there's a great tribulation that's coming. That word tribulation is a very, very strong word. It talks about pressure, literally and figuratively. So much pressure. We're afflicted, anguished, burdened, persecuted, tribulation, trial everywhere. There's trouble everywhere. No matter where we turn, there's trouble and we can't get free from it. There's affliction. There's a suffering of tribulation. And so it goes on. So we see that the scene is being set. We talk about abomination for desolation. The abominations are all these things that are going to come across and against Israel. Why? To desolate them, to absolutely destroy them. That is the agenda. That's the agenda of the world, no matter who it is and what it is. But that's where this is heading. We made a reference a few sessions back about the Great Battle of Armageddon. That'll be the Third World War. There's another world war coming, and that is that battle. And that's going to be the battle. It's going to seal the end of this age and move into the next age. But here we, without getting into that today, we understand that these are extremely serious days, and we don't understand it as Christians today. Can I just ask you not to just look around and say, we can get through this, we can get over this, or whatever that is, but to see it as a challenge to our faith, which it is today, that we're seeing that on every hand. Christians are being pushed back on every front, wherever they can. The Christian gospel has been held or somehow being confined wherever our leaders of the world can do it. But they're serious days. They're days that are coming will be days that are unbearable to live through. That's what it talks about. And the fleeing to the mountain is so that we can get away from this abomination that are going on. But we need to understand, we're not there yet, it'll be in a future couple of sessions. We need to understand it's at that time also there will be false Christs that will come. You can say, we can go back to the time of Jesus, following Jesus. Paul, there were many false Christs then. That's true. There are many today. Yes, that's true. But in those days that are coming, there will be many false Christs, because the people are now looking for a Messiah. They're looking, how do we get out of this abomination? And so there's going to come false Christs that are going to say, well, I am the reincarnated. I am the returned Christ. I am the person. Well, the scripture warns us go through, he says, don't follow them. But we'll get to that. But I just lay the scene here for us to understand where we're going. This battle is so great. The desolation, the abominations of desolation are so great. This is what he says in verse 22. And if those days, what days? The days of abomination to destroy and desolate Israel, if those days had not been shortened, no human being would endure and survive. But for the sake of the elect, that's God's people, the chosen ones, those days will be shortened. So there's God now. You see, he gets to the point where he says, that is enough. And he's going to intervene. What's he mean when he means that he's going to intervene? Well, he's going to come in and say, stop, that's it. And now he's going to come and he's going to take a hold of all of this, and he's going to bring order in it. He's going to return to the earth, and he's going to bring life in the way in which he wanted it to be. He's going to rule his kingdom for 1,000 years. That's that seventh day that we talked about earlier on. It is in verse 23 here. It says, if anybody sees then in those days, behold, Christ is here. That's what I just referred to. The Messiah, or he is here. Then don't believe it. False Christs and false prophets will arise, and they will show great signs. See, this is where the discernment is going to be very, very important. Because the desperation will be, we need a Messiah right now, and we need Christ to come back, and people are going to come in that place. They're going to come doing signs and wonders. I mean, think about the devil, Satan. The scripture says he's like an angel of light. He will do signs and wonders. And when he does all of that, I mean, how are we going to make a discernment between the Christ that is coming, the real Christ, and the Christ that says that are here, if they're doing signs and wonders also, and say that they have an answer? They can bring a conclusion to this desolation. Well, they can't. And you want to think back, there's a scripture you might want to refer to. It's in Exodus chapter 7 and verse 9 through the 13. It says this is in the day, you might remember if you cast your mind back, if you're not familiar with the Bible, but Israel was Hebrew people, were held in bondage under the Egyptians, the pharaohs. They ruled over them. They brought much labor. They were persecuted. They were oppressed. They were depressed. Everything. They were hard taskmasters over them. Incredible days of oppression. They couldn't stand it anymore. So God raised up a deliverer. When did he do that? When the people cried out unto him. Go to Exodus chapter 3 and read that. And so then there comes a call of Moses. And the call of Moses was to bring deliverance to the people, to set them free from this bondage that they had been caught into and the way in which that they were living. And what happened, we see that Moses responds to all of that. And then God says to Moses, show Pharaoh a sign to let him know that I, God, are with you. And so he took his rod, he said, throw it down on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Pharaoh then said, and he's smart, this is Pharaoh, smart, and he says that he brought in the wise men, he brought in the sorcerers, he brought in magicians, and they cast down their rods, and they became serpents like Aaron's rod. But Aaron's rod swallowed them all up. See, the greater power. See? Signs, wonders. God here, demonstration, the serpent. The sorcerers, the dark side, all of that, they threw down their rods, they became serpents. How do you know which now you're going to follow? Eh? Well, now the greater, which was God, the serpent here, swallowed all the others up. And they were referred to as Janus and Jambres, and they resisted Moses. So do these also resist the truth. They're people of corrupt minds. They disapprove, they're concerning their faith. But he said, I'm warning you beforehand. So can we learn anything from this today? Yes, we can. We can learn that we need to discern. How do we discern? By knowing the Word. How do we discern? By knowing the Word, we know God. He gives us a discernment to know the difference between what is supernatural powers of darkness and magics and magicians and witchcraft, all of that stuff, which is a look-alike of what God can do. Don't get caught up and don't be deceived. And don't follow any voice or any person who comes to say they are the Christ who has returned. There are some in the world today. Avoid it. God bless you. I trust that's helpful to you today, and take it and share it. Understand these things for your salvation and mine, and to keep us and to build our faith in the things of God. God bless you. Click on subscribe if you haven't done that. Send us an email. Love to hear from you. God bless you. Have a great day.